Hello and welcome. Today we're going to make a side dish or appetizer using crescent roll sheets and a few other pre-made ingredients. This is super easy since almost all of it is pre-made and almost anyone can do it. I made this recipe to celebrate my first 10,000 view video that used crescent rolls. I figured let's make something new to celebrate that. So let's see what we're going to need to make this. For our ingredients, we will need 1 tube crescent roll sheets, that doesn't need to be sheets, pizza sauce, 12 pre-made frozen meatballs, pizza cheese, and optionally mini pepperoni. You also want a mini muffin pan, or at the largest, the medium one. So we just need to open the dough and unroll the sheet. We want to leave the dough out for about 5 to 10 minutes to let it get closer to room temperature. This is going to make it a lot easier to stretch, and it's going to help with the initial rise in the oven. Once it's warmed up, we are ready to stretch the dough. So you want to gently lift one edge of the dough until it's just over half or just under half has pulled up like you see me doing here, and from there just kind of repeat lifting different sections until you just past or just about the middle. So why we're doing just past or just about the middle is so that we can get the middle to stretch out just a little bit so it doesn't stay really thick while the rest of it isn't. And then everything gets kind of thin on the edges, but the center's all puffy, and it's not as nice that way. So this is going to make the dough more even in thickness and give you better results when we're cutting. So those are both very handy. Once your dough is all stretched out to mostly take up the whole pan, we just need to let it rest for 5 minutes. And once it's done with that, we're ready for the next step. Once we are stretched and rested, we just need to cut the dough twice lengthwise into thirds and then divide the width by 2 and then by 2 again. This is going to give us 12 squares of dough. This is not going to give us perfect squares, but that's fine as well, since that'll give them a little bit of personality. My lines here are really bad, and you can see that where the top section is very small, much smaller than the bottom, but even that's going to work out okay at the end. So if you mess up here a little bit, don't worry about it. It's going to probably turn out fine in the end. I forgot to record it, but you will want to defrost or heat your meatballs up. In my case, that was a minute in the microwave for the dozen meatballs used here. And the dough is cut, and off we go. The reason we want to use a mini muffin tin is because it allows us to recess a space just big enough for the meatball. This recess helps us bunch up the dough around the meatball to make it look a bit more flour-like, and it helps to hold everything inside back in that little pouch. With a larger muffin tin, it tended to look a little bit more like an egg from the Aliens movie than flowers, so maybe that's one for next Halloween. Who knows? So, once your dough is in, we are ready to add the pizza sauce. Similar to real pizza, you want a light layer. Once that's sauced, you're going to add your meatball, another dab of tomato sauce on top, then a tiny bit of cheese if you're using it. If you like the mini pepperonis, you're going to put some on the center and on the petals, as you can see here. And for people who are not able to eat dairy, like myself, this recipe actually works great with or without the cheese, as long as you pinch. And I did notice some of the brands of crescent roll sheets had some butter in them, some dairy, so you just check that first, but otherwise this works perfect for people who can't have cheese. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and if you're enjoying this video and not already subscribed, subscribe for more like this. And pictures of the boss cats. And a huge thank you to everyone who's been liking and sharing the videos. It's really helping the channel grow, and it means the world to us. So, for the flour part, we just want to pinch the center edge inwards like I'm doing here. Pinching the dough inwards here will make the corners more rounded at the center and make it a more flower petal look to the corners. Just repeat that for all of your flours and you are good to go in the oven. Again though, like as I mentioned in the cutting stage, it's super not critical to be neat and perfect and have everything identical here. The flaws are going to get a more organic, natural look. So we can get this in the oven, or we can try and make them just a little bit more flour-like. Let's try that. So let's try to paint our flowers. I'm going to be using turmeric and annatto as natural coloring agents here. For the turmeric, just mix about a half a teaspoon worth with about the same amount of water, and you can paint it right on with any brush. This is easier, it will be more visible if you do not use the pepperoni. Now, for the annatto, I used a mortar and pestle to grind a few of the seeds and mixed it with about the same amount of liquid. And same as before, just painting it onto the middle areas. The turmeric was super easy and available pretty much anywhere, and as you can see here, produced some very vivid yellows. The annatto is probably going to be a lot harder to get a hold of depending on where you live, and you're going to need a mortar and pestle, and it was kind of a pain comparatively. So you don't have to do either of these, but I would do the turmeric if you're going to, because it's just so easy and foolproof, and neither of them imparted anything of a taste that was really noticeable. You knew the turmeric was there, but you couldn't really taste it too much. So, once they are painted, if you're going to paint them, we're ready for the oven. And into the oven we go for the time and temperature designated on your crescent roll sheets packaging. For mine, that was about 375 degrees for 13 minutes. Mine listed the time as between 10 and 13. I went with 13 because I like the tips to be a little bit more crispy, but 10 minute was also quite nice and a bit softer. The ends were a little bit more softer and hadn't really browned yet. So while this bakes, let's talk about that color. Again, like I said, the turmeric was super easy, and as you can see here, it actually shows up quite well, and it's available anywhere. Not it was going to be harder to come by. It does show up, and it is a nice separate color with a reddish tint to it, as you can see here, but really hard to find. So if you only are going to do one, turmeric's super easy. You don't even really need to paint them. You could just do everything the same, and as my brother said, you got yourself some nice meatball ninja stars. Once those are baked, you are ready to go. Let them cool for about 10 minutes, and you are ready to serve. And with that, we've made a nice, simple, low-effort side dish that can be used for the holidays or just because you feel like it. And it doesn't take a whole lot of skill to do, which is nice for this recipe, since that's a good bonus. Most anyone can do this, or at least help out with it. So, as always, I'd like to thank everyone for watching, sharing, and commenting, and I hope I can continue providing you enjoyment. Have a great day and a great meal.